Our species is evolving, Vexana explained, gesturing to the genetic displays. Our physical bodies are failing us, our emotional capacity diminishing with each generation. Soon we will be nothing but thought, without form, without feeling. We need human, genetic material to stabilize our evolution. Linda looked at the displays, trying to understand the complex genetic data while searching for an opportunity to escape. Why children? She asked, keeping her voice steady. Vexana moved to a console, tapping it with long fingers. Their genetic material is more adaptable, less corrupted by time and experience. We need their capacity for growth and changes. Vexana turned to show her more data. Linda pressed the emergency button on her phone, a feature that would send all photos taken in the last hour to her backup cloud storage along with her location. She just hoped the signal could penetrate whatever shielding the Xerith facility might have. Alarms suddenly blared throughout the facility. Vexana turned, her amber eyes flashing. What have you done, Linda Morgan? Nothing, Linda said, stepping back. I didn't touch anything. Xerith scientists rushed into the laboratory, speaking in their clicking language to Vexana. Her expression darkened. The human has transmitted data outside our facility, Vexana said, her voice now cold and threatening. We detect unauthorized transmission. Linda knew she had only moments to act when Vexana turned to give orders to the guards. Linda grabbed a heavy metal instrument from a nearby table and swung it at the glass container holding what appeared to be genetic samples. The glass shattered, liquid spilling across the floor. The distraction worked as the scientists rushed to save their samples. Linda bolted for the door, sprinting down the corridor back toward the chamber with the tank's two guards pursued her, their long legs giving them an advantage in speed. Linda reached the chamber and ran between the rows of tanks, heading for the small door she had noticed. Earlier, she could hear the guards behind her gaining ground. With each second, she pushed herself harder than she ever had before. Reaching the door, Linda yanked it open. Finding a maintenance corridor beyond, she slipped through and slammed it shut. Behind her, searching frantically for something to block it, she found a metal rod and jammed it through the handle. It wouldn't hold them for long, but she only needed a few moments. The maintenance corridor was dimly lit with pipes running along the ceiling. Linda ran, following the pipes, hoping they would lead to an exit or at least away from the guards behind her. She could hear them now pounding on the door, the metal rod already bending under their strength. After several turns, the corridor opened into what appeared to be a power generation room. Massive humming machines filled the space, creating a deafening noise. Linda spotted a service exit on the far wall and ran toward it. Just as she reached the exit, the door behind her burst open and 3 Xerith guards entered the room, spreading out to block her escape. Linda yanked open the exit door, revealing a metal ladder leading up to what she hoped was ground levels. He climbed as fast as she could, the guards right below her, reaching up with their long arms trying to grab her ankles. Linda kicked out, connecting with one of their hands. It felt hard, like hitting stone. But the guard dropped back slightly. Linda reached the top of the ladder, pushing open a heavy metal cover, and emerging into the night air. She was in an alley behind the Xerith embassy. The rain had stopped and the streets were quiet. She ran without looking back, heading for the busiest area she could find, knowing the Xerith would be less likely to capture her in a crowd. She needed to find Susan to share what she had discovered. Linda pulled out her phone. Relieved to see the photos had indeed been uploaded to her cloud storage, she called Susan, her hands shaking. Susan. It's Linda. You were right about everything, she gasped into the phone between breaths. They have children, hundreds of them, in tanks at the embassy. Linda. Where are you? Susan asked, her voice tense. Downtown near the river walk. Linda said, looking around. I just escaped the embassy. They're probably tracking Megat to crowded public place, Susan instructed. Stay there, I'm calling someone who can help you. A friend in the military. Linda entered a busy late-night diner, sliding into a booth where she could watch the door and the street outside. She ordered coffee to avoid looking suspicious while she waited, her mind racing with what she had seen. 20 minutes later, a woman in civilian clothes entered the diner, her eyes scanning the room until they locked on Linda. She approached the booth, sitting down across from her. Linda Morgan and Captain Nancy White. Susan Gray sent me, she said quietly, showing a military ID. We need to move quickly. Linda looked at the ID, then at the woman. Can I trust you? How do I know you're not working with them? Captain White slid a phone across the table on It was a video call with Susan Linda. It's me, Nancy is one of us. She has a secure location where you can show us what you found. Linda nodded, standing up to follow Captain White out of the diner. They walked quickly to a parked car with tinted windows. As they drove, Captain White explained the situation. Some of us have been monitoring the Zereth since they arrived. We formed a small resistance group when children started disappearing near their facilities. You knew, Linda asked, anger rising in her voice. We suspected but had no proof. Captain White replied. We needed evidence from inside their facility, which you now have. They drove to what appeared to be an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of the city. Inside, Linda found a fully equipped command center with military and civilian personnel, working at computers and communication equipment. Susan rushed over, hugging Linda tightly. Thank God you're safe. What did you find? They reached the entrance to the chamber where Linda had discovered the children. Captain White positioned her team at the door, ready to breach Linda. This is where you stay back. Captain White ordered. No, Linda insisted. I know this place better than anyone. I can help. Captain White studied her for a moment, then nodded. Stay behind us and follow orders. The team breached the door, entering the chamber with weapons raised. Linda followed close behind, gasping at what she saw. The chamber had changed. Since her last visit, there were now twice as many tanks. The Zereth had accelerated their operation. A group of Zereth scientists worked frantically at control panels while guards took defensive positions around the room. The moment the human team entered, the aliens reacted with surprising speed. Sonic weapons fired, filling the air with a high-pitched whine that caused the Zereth to stagger. Their movements becoming uncoordinated, the human soldiers advanced methodically, securing sections of the chamber, while extraction teams moved in behind them to assess the children and tanks. Linda stayed with Captain White, searching for Vexana, knowing the ambassador would likely be coordinating the defense. They found her in the research section, surrounded by guards. Vexana saw Linda, her amber eyes flashing with anger. You have doomed us all. Linda Morgan. Linda aimed her weapon at the ambassador. Why didn't you just ask for help? We would have given it freely. Asking implies the possibility of refusal, Vexana replied. We could not risk denial. Captain White signaled her team to surround the Zereth guards. Sonic weapons aimed and ready. Surrender. Now Captain White demanded all Zereth facilities worldwide are under attack. You have no escape. Vexana seemed to consider this, her eyes moving from Linda to the captain, then to the children and tanks. Suddenly she moved, touching a control panel on her wrist. The tanks began to glow brighter, a warning alarm sounding. What are you doing? Linda shouted. Ensuring our survival, Vexana replied. If we cannot have the children, their genetic material will still serve our purpose. Linda realized with horror that Vexana was activating some kind of extraction process that would kill the children. She fired her weapon. The sonic blast hitting Vexana in the chest, the ambassador staggered back, but remained standing. Captain White and her team opened fire on the guards, while Linda lunged toward the control panel Vexana had used. She had to stop whatever process had been initiated, but she didn't know how the alien technology was beyond her understandings. Susan Linda called into her communicator over the sound of weapons fire. Vexana activated something in the tanks. The children are in danger. I see it, Susan's voice came back through the chaos in their system working to override. Linda turned to face Vexana, who had recovered from the sonic blast. The ambassador moved toward her with incredible speed, grabbing Linda by the throat and lifting her off the ground. You cannot stop evolution. Linda Morgan, Vexana said, her voice cold in Linda's mind. Linda struggled against the iron grip, firing her weapon again. At point-blank range, the sonic blast made Vexana loosen her grip enough for Linda to break free. She fell to the floor, gasping for air. Around them, the battle continued, human soldiers fighting against Zereth guards, extraction teams working desperately to open tanks and remove children before whatever process Vexana had initiated could be completed. Linda, we got it, Susan shouted through the communicator. I've overridden the extraction sequence. The tanks are returning to normal. Vexana screamed in rage, a sound that pierced Linda's mind like a physical pain. The ambassador lunged at her again, but Captain White intercepted, firing her weapon continuously. The sonic blasts finally overwhelming Vexana. She fell to her knees, her shimmering skin growing dull. Linda approached the fallen ambassador. You never understood us? She said. We would have helped you. Find another way. A way that didn't involve stealing our children. Vexana looked up, her amber eyes dimming. You cannot understand the weight of a dying species. Captain White secured Vexana as a prisoner, while Linda joined the extraction teams helping to open tanks and remove children. They were alive, all of them, though in a deep sleep induced by whatever chemicals the Zereth had used. Throughout the chamber, similar scenes played out, soldiers securing Zereth personnel, while medical teams tended to the children, preparing them for transport to hospitals where they could be properly evaluated and eventually reunited with their families. Linda cradled a small girl no more than 6 years old as she carried her to a waiting medical team. The child's pulse was steady, her breathing normal, but she would not wake. Will they be okay? Linda asked a doctor who was examining the children. We think so. The doctor replied, they appear to be in an induced coma, but their vital signs are strong. We have counteragents that should wake them within 24 to 48 hours. Reports came in from around the world. Similar scenes at every Zereth facility. Thousands of children recovered. The alien operation exposed and shut down in a single coordinated strike. It was a victory, but the breach of trust would leave scars on humanity for generations. General Wilson arrived at the New Orleans facility as the last of the children were being evacuated. She surveyed the chamber, now empty of its precious cargo, her face showing both relief and determination. This is just the beginning, she told Linda and Captain White. The Zereth have a homeworld somewhere. They may return or send others. We need to be ready. In the following days, as children began to wake from their induced sleep, reuniting with desperate parents, the world changed. Global leaders who had once welcomed the Zereth now demanded accountability. The treaties were dissolved, Zereth technology confiscated for study and reverse engineering. Linda spent her time visiting hospitals, watching families reunite, finding a measure of peace in their joy. Though she could not forget Vexana's words about the weight of a dying species, she wondered if there might have been another way. 2 years passed. The world, transformed by the encounter with the Zereth, nations that had once been enemies now worked together toward common defense. The technology recovered from Zereth facilities provided breakthroughs in medicine, energy production, and space travel. Linda now worked with General Wilson and Susan at the newly established Earth Defense Force headquarters, a sprawling complex built underground in Colorado. She had been appointed diplomatic advisor. Her experience with the Zereth, considered invaluable for any future first contact scenarios today, was special. After months of work using reverse-engineered Zereth technology, Earth was launching its first faster-than-light capable ship. The Defender. Linda stood on the observation deck watching final preparations. General Wilson, now Fleet Admiral, beside her. Hard to believe how far we've come in 2 years, Linda said. Wilson nodded. We had good motivation. Nothing unites people like a common threat. The Zereth did us a favor in a way. Linda thought about the children who had been taken, many still suffering from nightmares and anxiety, some with unexplained genetic anomalies that Susan and her team were still studying. Not a favor I would have asked for, Linda replied. But I understand what you mean. We grew up fast. Susan joined them on the deck, holding a tablet with latest data. I just finished analyzing the information we extracted from Vexana's personal files, she said. I think I know why they specifically targeted children. Linda and Wilson turned to her with interest. The Zereth evolution problem was real. Susan explained they were losing physical form, becoming pure energy or consciousness, but the process was painful for them. They couldn't maintain cohesion without an anchor to physical reality, and children provided that anchor. Linda guessed. Susan nodded. Exactly. Children have an inherent connection between mind and body, a natural balance the Zereth had lost. They wanted to use that connection to stabilize their own evolution, not just cure a disease but guide their transformation. Wilson frowned. So what happens now? Could they still complete their evolution without the children? Unlikely. Susan said they needed thousands of genetic samples working in concert. I think we interrupted their process at a critical stage. They won't be able to try again easily. Linda looked up at the massive ship being fueled on the launch pad, its hull gleaming in the sunlight. The name Defender painted on the side in bold letters. Do you think they'll come back? She asked. Wilson nodded. Eventually they might, or others like them. Space is vast but not infinite. We will meet other species, some friendly, some not. We need to be ready for both. Linda thought about Vexana, now held in a special facility designed to contain Xerath physiology. The ambassador had refused to provide information about her home world. Maintaining that her people would eventually return, the ship's launch was scheduled for noon, a crew of 20, the best pilots, engineers, and scientists Earth had to offer. They would make a short jump to the edge of the solar system and back a test of the FTL drive before longer missions were attempted. As the final countdown began, Linda felt a mixture of pride and apprehension. Humanity was taking its first real steps into the galaxy, not as naive explorers, but as cautious defenders, carrying the hard lesson they had learned from the Xerath General Rodriguez approached them in her uniform as commander of the Defender. Her expression serious but excited. "We're ready, Admiral," she said to Wilson. "Everything checks out. We launch in 5 minutes." Wilson nodded. "Good luck, General. Make us proud." Rodriguez turned to Linda. "We named one of the ship systems after you," she said with a smile. "The Linda Protocol for First Contact Assessment, a series of checks and balances to ensure we never trust too quickly again." Linda felt honored, yet saddened that her legacy would be one of caution rather than openness still. She understood the necessity. They had nearly lost everything to naive trust. The ship's engines began to power up, a low hum that grew to a rumbling vibration. Linda, Susan, and Wilson watched from behind protective glass as the Defender rose slowly. From its cradle hovering on anti-gravity, technology adapted from Xerath designs, with a flash of blue energy the ship accelerated upward, punching through clouds and disappearing into the clear sky. Tracking systems showed its progress as it left Earth atmosphere, heading for the test coordinates at the edge of the solar system. "We did it," Wilson said softly. "We took their technology and made it our own." Linda nodded, but her thoughts were elsewhere, wondering what waited beyond their solar system. What other species might be watching Earth even now, making their own assessments. Later that evening, after the Defender had successfully returned from its test flight, Linda visited the secure facility where Vexana was held. The ambassador had been given comfortable quarters but remained under constant surveillance. Linda entered the room, finding Vexana standing by the window looking at the night sky. Her once shimmering skin now dull, her amber eyes faded. "You achieved faster than light travel today," Vexana said without turning impressive for such a young species. Linda sat in a chair watching the alien, her former captor, now her prisoner. "Yes, we did, using your technology." Vexana turned a slight smile on her face. "Not my technology, Linda Morgan, your technology. Now evolution finds a way, doesn't it? Your species evolving through ours. Linda considered this you could have shared willingly taught us." "Perhaps," Vexana conceded. "But would you have learned the same lesson the Defender would you have? Built weapons alongside exploration vessels? Would you have created protocols to protect yourselves?" Linda had no answer for that. "My people will return," Vexana said eventually. "Though I may not live to see it, they still need what your species has." Linda leaned forward. "When they do return, they will find us waiting. Not as enemies necessarily, but not as naive friends either. They will find a humanity that has learned caution." Vexana nodded. "That is as it should be. The galaxy is not safe." Linda Morgan. It never has been. As Linda left the facility, she looked up at the stars, wondering which one might be the Xerath homeworld. Humanity had taken its first steps into a larger universe, carrying both hope and wariness. The children who had been taken were safe now. Growing up in a world forever changed by the encounter, Earth had survived its first contact with a hostile alien species. Next time they would be ready. Next time they would be stronger. The stars would soon learn a valuable lesson. Never underestimate humans, especially when protecting their children. Linda smiled up at the night sky as a streak of light crossed the heavens, the Defender on another test flight. Humanity was going to the stars, not as conquerors, but as protectors, ready to face whatever waited in the darkness beyond with open eyes and ready hands. Linda connected her phone to a computer displaying the photos she had taken in the Xerath facility. The images appeared on a large screen showing row upon row of tanks, each containing a sleeping child. The room fell silent as everyone stared at the evidence. 800 children, Susan whispered, looking at the data. "How long has this been happening since they arrived?" Captain White said, her face grim. "We tracked disappearances but could never prove the Xerath were responsible." Linda explained. Everything she had learned about the Xereth's plans, their evolution problem, and their need for human genetic material. Specifically from children. They said they needed 5,000 children to save their species. Linda finished, but I think that's just the beginning. Once they perfect the process, they'll want more. A tall woman in a military uniform stepped forward from the back of the room. General Kate Wilson, commander of the newly formed Earth Defense Force. She studied the images, her expression hardening. They betrayed our trust. She said they used our goodwill to steal our children. This ends now. The general turned to the room, assemble all available units, and contact our international counterparts. We move against all Xereth facilities simultaneously. In 24 hours, the command center erupted into activity, officers making calls. Technicians analyzing the facility layout from Linda's photos. Scientists examining the genetic data Linda had managed to capture on her phone. Susan pulled Linda aside. To a quiet corner, we need to understand their weakness, she said. Before we attack, their technology is far superior to ours. We need an advantage. Linda thought back to her time in the facility, remembering details, the way the Xereth moved, their reactions, their security measures. They can read vital signs, she said suddenly. They knew I was lying because they monitored my heart rate and probably other physical responses. But they didn't immediately know I sent the photos, they only detected the transmission. Susan nodded, thinking that suggests they have advanced biological sensing, but perhaps not as advanced technological monitoring as we assumed. What about weapons? Linda asked. What can hurt them? I hit one with a metal object. It seemed to cause pain. Captain, White added, joining their conversation. General Wilson approached them, her presence commanding attention. We have reports from other resistance cells that Xereth skin is vulnerable to certain frequencies of sound. High-pitched frequencies seem to disorient them. They also avoid water except when necessary. Linda added, remembering how the Xereth guards had hesitated when she spilled the liquid in the lab. They don't like getting wet. General Wilson nodded. Taking notes. We can use this, develop sonic weapons and water-based deterrents as they planned their attack. Linda thought about the children. What would happen to them during an assault on the facilities? The children in the tanks. She said we need to make sure they're safe during the attack. You're right. General Wilson agreed. We need extraction teams specifically focused on securing and evacuating the children. Medical personnel will need to be standing by to assess their condition. For the next several hours, Linda worked with the resistance team, helping them plan the assault on the Xereth embassy, using her first-hand knowledge of the facility layout, the location of the children, and the Xereth's vulnerabilities. Scientists modified weapons to emit high-frequency sounds that would disorient the Xereth. Military teams practiced with new tactics involving water-based weapons, and extraction teams rehearsed their roles in rescuing the children. As the preparations continued, news arrived from resistance cells around the world, more evidence of Xereth facilities with human children in tanks. The true scale of their operation becoming clear. They had established collection centers in every major city by morning. The resistance had grown as military units from around the world joined their cause, ready to strike against the alien betrayers. Linda barely slept, her mind filled with images of the children in tanks and the cold, calculating way Vexana had spoken of them as mere resources. Before dawn, General Wilson called a final briefing. All team leaders gathered around a tactical display showing Xereth facilities worldwide. The coordinated attack will begin at 0600 hours. She explained, our primary objectives are to secure the children, shut down Xereth operations, and capture their leadership for questioning. All teams will be equipped with sonic disruptors and water-based weapons. Stay in constant communication, and remember, we are fighting for our children. For our future. Linda would accompany Captain White's team back to the New Orleans facility, guiding them to the chamber where the children were kept. Susan would coordinate from the command center, providing technical support and working to hack Xereth communication systems as they prepared to move out. General Wilson approached Linda. You started this, Linda, she said, handing her a pistol modified with a sonic disruptor attachment. You should help finish it. Linda took the weapon, feeling its weight in her hand. She had never fired a gun before, but now understood the necessity. Are you sure about this? Susan asked as they said their goodbyes. No, Linda admitted. But I have to try. Those children deserve a chance to go home. The resistance teams moved out in unmarked vehicles converging on Xereth facilities across the globe. Linda sat in the back of a tactical transport surrounded by soldiers, their faces determined under their helmets, the weight of their mission evident in their silence. As they approached the New Orleans embassy, Linda could see the gleaming structure rising above the surrounding buildings, its architecture both beautiful and alien, a perfect metaphor for the deception it housed. The attack began precisely at 0600 hours, military units worldwide striking simultaneously at Zereth facilities before the aliens could coordinate a response in New Orleans. Captain White's team breached the embassy perimeter using sonic weapons to disorient the Zereth guards. Linda followed the soldiers through the chaotic entrance hall, Zereth personnel falling back before the assault team, the sonic weapons proving effective. The aliens clutching their heads in pain as the high-frequency sound disrupted their senses. Following Linda's directions, the team made their way toward the chamber containing the children, fighting through increasingly desperate resistance as they got closer to the Zereth's most important secret. The first alien craft landed on a rainy Tuesday in April on the outskirts of New Orleans. Linda Morgan was returning from her night shift at the hospital when she saw it. A gleaming silver disc settled in the middle of the empty parking lot. She pulled over, heart racing in her chest. Something told her to run, but curiosity won. The hatch opened with a soft hiss, releasing a cloud of purple mist. 4 tall figures stepped out, their skin shimmering like oil on water. They had feminine features, with large almond eyes that glowed amber in the dim light. The tallest one approached Linda, her movements fluid like water. "We have been watching your kind, Linda Morgan." The alien spoke, her voice melodic inside Linda's mind. "How do you know my name?" Linda whispered. The alien smiled, revealing sharp teeth. "We know many things, our people. The Zereth have studied your planet for centuries now. We make official contact within days." The Zereth were everywhere, offering advanced technology, medical breakthroughs, energy solutions. Humanity embraced them with open arms. Global leaders signed treaties of friendship and cooperation. Linda became something of a celebrity, the first human to make contact. She was given a position as human liaison to the Zereth High Council. Only Susan Gray, a scientist at NASA, had doubts. "They give us everything but ask for nothing," Susan told Linda during a private dinner 6 months after first contact. "That isn't how intelligent species behave. There must be something they want." Linda sighed. "Susan, we have been over this. They simply want cultural exchange. They are peaceful explorers." Susan leaned forward, lowering her voice. "I hacked into their communication network. Linda, they are sending strange signals to their home world containing human genetic information, specifically focusing on human children." Linda dismissed Susan's concerns, but the seed of doubt was planted. She began paying closer attention during her meetings with the Zereth Council, noticing small inconsistencies in their stories, the way they watched human children with unusual interest. One night, Linda used her security clearance to enter the Zereth embassy. She slipped past guards into a restricted area, finding a large chamber filled with glowing tanks. Inside each tank floated a human child suspended in clear fluid. Asleep, or worse, horror struck Linda as she counted hundreds of tanks. She pulled out her phone, taking pictures, when a hand clamped over her mouth. "You should not be here, Linda Morgan." The voice of Vexana, the Zereth ambassador, flowed into her mind. Linda struggled against the strong grip, her heart pounding with fear. She had been right to suspect something, but never imagined anything this terrible. The children in tanks looked peaceful, almost like they were sleeping, but Linda knew better. "What are you doing with these children?" Linda demanded when Vexana finally released her. "Ensuring our survival." Vexana replied, "There is no deception, only necessity. Our species is dying. A genetic disorder. We need human children, specifically their stem cells, to create a cure." "You kidnapped them," Linda gasped. Looking again at the rows of tanks stretching into the distance. "Borrowed is more accurate," Vexana corrected. "They will be returned unharmed once we extract what we need. Approximately 5,000 children will save our entire species." "A small price, 5,000, Linda echoed in horror. "The number grows as we speak." Vexana gestured to the tanks across the earth. "Our collection proceeds." Linda felt sick, but kept her face neutral. She needed to escape with this information. She needed to warn people the Zereth were not the saviors everyone thought they were. Vexana tilted her head, studying Linda like a scientist might examine An interesting specimen. You seem troubled by this arrangement. Linda Morgan, is the survival of our species not worth a temporary inconvenience to your... Slinda forced herself to remain calm. How many have you taken so far? Nearly 800. Vexana replied, we work efficiently. Linda nodded slowly, pretending to consider this information while she looked for an escape route. The door she had entered through was blocked by 2 Zereth guards, their amber eyes watching her closely. She noticed another, smaller door on the far side of the chamber. I understand the necessity, Vexana, Linda said carefully. I was just surprised by the scale of the operation. Perhaps I could help coordinate with human authorities to make the collection more efficient. Vexana's eyes narrowed slightly. You offer assistance now. Interesting. Your heart rate indicates deception. Linda Morgan. Linda realized they could monitor her vital signs. Somehow, she needed a distraction before they read more of her thoughts and discovered her true intentions. I feel conflicted, that's all she said. This is a lot to process. May I see your research? Perhaps it would help me understand the necessity. Vexana seemed to consider this request, then nodded. Follow me to the research section. We will show you why this is necessary. Linda followed Vexana through the chamber past rows and rows of tanks, each containing a sleeping child. She tried not to look at their faces, tried not to imagine their families searching for them. Instead, she focused on memorizing the layout of the facility, counting doors and guards, noting security measures. Her phone was still in her pocket with pictures of the children. She had to get this evidence out. Somehow, she had to warn humanity about what was really happening. Vexana led her into a laboratory where several Zereth and white coverings worked with human tissue samples. Linda saw screens displaying human DNA sequences next to Zereth genetic code. The aliens were indeed studying how to combine the two,